I didn't want to be diagnosed with a condition. I wanted a solution. I have learned that any pattern can be broken, and any new pattern can be built if I'm willing to do the work.
Hi, welcome to Starve the Demon, recovery by any means necessary. Today's episode is all about reprogramming your mind to break free from destructive patterns. We're diving into the world of Neuro-Linguistic Programming, or NLP, which is something that I'm not familiar with. I'm very excited to learn about it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with somebody who needs it. Whether you're in recovery, supporting someone who is, or just looking to gain control over your thoughts and behaviors, this one's for you. My guest today is Mike. I'm very excited. He is an NLP practitioner from Maryland, and he's here to share how changing the way we speak and think can literally change our lives. Let's talk about it. Hi, Mike. Welcome to Starve the Demon.
Hey, thanks, Jenna.
Happy to have you here. And thank you for volunteering to tell your story and jump on to my We Don't Know What's Going to Happen channel. So, Mike, what is your experience with the disease of addiction?
What I found is at a young age, I have an addictive personality, and it started with sports. Whichever sport I would get into, I would really get into it.
Like a mental obsession with things.
Yeah. And so, for instance, I played soccer and I was left-footed. And then I had a coach that made me do everything with my right foot. And I always wanted to be better. So if he told us to go kick 10 things, I would do 20. And I don't know why it was like that, whether it was basketball, baseball, soccer, it didn't matter. When I started learning how to ride a bike, I got really into the bike and wanted to customize the bike. So that's as a kid, right? And then in college, I found that I would go out and drink, and 1 or 2 drinks wasn't any fun. Like, no, if we're going to drink, we're going to go drink. Let's make it a sport. How much can we drink?
I have played that sport.
Yeah. How fast can we drink? Then we start a club around who can drink more. In the moment, it seemed like good fun. To me, it made the experience more, but it was destructive on the back end. Right?
Absolutely.
Nobody should be going out and trying to do 16 shots or chugging a whole bottle as fast as they could, whatever. Another one was tobacco. I got into chewing tobacco in high school because I thought it was, I don't know, cool, I guess. I didn't want to smoke. At that time, there was a very negative thing around smoking, but chewing tobacco seemed like that's what the tough guys, cool guy, whatever. I couldn't stop it for years. Guys that chew tobacco, they might understand this. Normally somebody has a preference, left side, right side, whatever. I learned how to put it on the upper lip. Because if you always chew it in one spot, it's bad for that area. Just stupid things that you're like, why am I doing this to myself? Anyway.
But then you keep doing it.
Yes. And then you notice that for me, it's a behavior pattern. If I end up liking something or doing it, I like to do it frequently. So then I start recognizing, well, it's not really the thing. It's more something about me that I have to recognize within myself.
Brilliantly said. And in every recovery modality, I don't care what it is, that is what people have to come to realize, is that it's not about the substance. It doesn't matter what the thing is. It's that thing within us that makes us continue this negative behavior in spite of the consequences, right?
One thing I want to add is that what gets interesting about addiction, sometimes you can take something that's good and it can be bad too. So for instance, as I got older and when I finally stopped drinking, I got into fitness. And then I noticed like, I want to be more addicted to that. So even something that could be considered good, like getting into shape, working out, whatever. If you have an addictive type personality, you have to start recognizing, whoa, wait a minute. I'm just doing the same thing. I've just replaced the thing with another thing.
Right. Trading one addiction for another. And that's very common, I think, in the recovery community, because once you start to feel healthy, you start trying to do this whole holistic, you want to eat right, you want to exercise, you want to be the opposite of what you were when you were in active addiction. When I say addiction, for those out there, please drop me a comment if you disagree, but even alcoholics are addicts because they are addicted to alcohol. So tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I get that. I see that a lot. Part of my recovery is going to the gym and doing my yoga and keeping myself healthy. I work at a treatment center, and the group home that I'm at with them, there's a weight bench and all that out in the garage. And those guys, as soon as they get a little bit of clear headed, they just stay on those weights, stay on those machines. I think balance is where you've got to get to, because you're right. Anything can become detrimental. Anything. Yeah. Let's talk about NLP. What is that in your words?
NLP is understanding the connection from here, and how it projects outward, right? So you have your feelings, emotions, uncomfortableness, but you also have thoughts. And then there's your actions. The best way I would say to describe to somebody is, for myself, initially, it was challenging to understand that I can separate a thought and a feeling, and and one can be one can be another. And then I can look at them and decide what I want to do.
Okay.
After going through and getting like a lot of education and training in NLP, learning how to effectively do that, to isolate the thought and the feeling from an action.
I love cliches. And that makes me think of feelings aren't facts. You have to be able to separate them, how I feel versus what's actually happening. Because especially when we're drinking or using, that feels great, but the fact is it's killing us, right? And getting sober and doing the right thing, that doesn't always feel awesome, but it's good for us. So feelings aren't facts. My husband hates it when I say that. So now, how did you first discover NLP? What drew you to that?
I got divorced and I'm dating, and I'm coming back from a weekend at the beach. And my new girlfriend, we're stuck in traffic. And we're just sitting there talking, and she had just recently gone and did a NLP training.
Okay.
And as she was talking about it, I was sitting there going, you mean there's a real thing? Like I had found for myself that I had recognized, Mike, just because you're thinking something or feeling something, it doesn't mean it's true. I didn't understand that there was a whole thing around that. I just had personal experience in managing things for myself in a way that I found was different from a lot of other people in the way that they manage things. So here she is. She's telling me about this NLP training. And I had just recently been coaching some people, and I noticed that I was ineffective in communicating to some people. Other people I could communicate very simply, and I didn't understand why that was. I blamed the other person. I was like, well, clearly it's their fault, right? And I had no idea that a lot of my issues in my life were because of me, right?
Isn't that a crazy realization?
We are sitting in traffic, stuck, and I hand her my phone. She helped me find a hotel. I booked the training and went maybe a month later. It was 40-hour training in 4 days.
It's like a little seminar kind of thing. That's great. Yeah. That's great. Now, when you do that training, is that for you as an individual, or is that teaching you how to teach others?
Some of both. There's probably 60 people in the room getting trained. Most of them, I would say like 40 or more, were there because of like a work thing. They wanted to have this skill set to work with their clients.
Okay.
Then there was maybe a half a dozen people, more like myself, was really there for myself. I wanted to learn how this NLP thing really works from someone who studied it, right? Like, because I had figured out a couple pieces and it made sense to me in theory, because I was like, well, this works. I've done this, but I didn't know what I was doing.
Right. You didn't have the terminology.
Yeah. And to understand how it works, normally there's a circumstance that happens in life. And then that causes some sort of a trigger, a feeling, whatever. And then that makes me think something. And then that thought makes me go do something, which then puts me in this situation that I'm in. Learning how the whole process really works and how I could have a say in more of the steps and then ultimately this outcome was fascinating. I just wanted to understand it in much more detail.
I love it. Have you heard of cognitive behavioral therapy?
Yes.
Very similar. I'm picking up what you're putting down, Mike. So who do you think NLP is best suited for?
Anyone who is serious about actually wanting to make a change. Maybe it's how they think, how they communicate, or how they lead, or what they represent, who they are. It's for someone who just recognizes they don't like where they are or where they've been. They know that they want to either be or get to somewhere else, but they're not sure how to do it.
Okay.
And they're willing to look outside and be just uncomfortable and say, maybe there's a different way to go about this than the way everybody else seems to say to do it.
What I'm hearing is that it's very much about personal accountability. Like the way that I feel, the way that I think, the way that I act, I am in control of that. In my world, we talk about playing the tape all the way through, right?
Okay.
Like if I do this, what's going to be the result of that? What's going to be the consequence of that? What's going to be the feedback? So the idea that things happen to you and you react to them and oh well is unacceptable. Just because this thing happened, I can't control that, the trigger, the event, but I absolutely can control how I respond to that. And I do that by taking my thoughts captive and understanding that my feeling related to that thought is not necessarily the truth. And my actions are then based in rational thought as opposed to irrational emotion. Am I on the right track there?
Yes. And I would share too, and again, I can only speak from personal experience. Playing sports as a kid taught me some interesting things. There, I would be riding to a game, and one of the parents would say, "Oh, you guys are going to lose today because this team is this or that kid is so great, or whatever." At an early age, I recognized, man, a lot of people are full of a lot of opinions, and they actually don't really know what they're talking about. They're just making weird correlations because that's what it is for them.
Right, right.
And I would get out and we would play this game. And when you're in the moment, you don't have a, let me correct that. Some people can just be in the moment and do the thing. And then you can be actually shocked at the result that you get because you just were moving and going through and not saying, well, wait a minute, he just did that. So that means I can't do this. No, it's like, I just want to go do this right now. And if I just do it, what would end up happening? What I found was a lot of times you can get a result that nobody thought you could get. And I might not even thought. And midway through, I might not even have believed that that was possible. But if I didn't focus on that, what I'm saying is, if I just focused on, well, right now, this is what I would really like to have happen. So let me just try that and see what plays out.
I love it. It sounds so positive and good.
Well, and yeah, and I think it's easier when we're younger. I think as we get older, it gets harder because we have more negative experiences sometimes. Okay, for myself, sometimes you'll carry around the negative thing even though you've had like 70 great things happen, but you minimize all those.
Yeah, no, I see that. I've been around long enough to know what you're saying is true. My husband and I talk about that sometimes. There'll be 100 people that were wonderful and nice, and that one person that had that screw face and had something bad to say, that's the one that you think about. I think that's a very human experience. I don't have an answer for that, but I don't know why that is, but I know that it is. What is an example of an NLP technique that can help rewire self-destructive thinking?
NLP will have you change your thought process and the way you associate something. And some people that really freaks them out. And what I mean is, let's just say there's no good or bad, there's no right or wrong. There's just a spectrum of things. And it could be a little bit this way at times. It could be a little bit that way at times. And if you can stay on a thought process where, hey, let me just look at this from that perspective for a moment and not get all caught up in right and wrong, right? I feel like black and white thinking it just crushes the average person. They do this thing in NLP. They call it a swish pattern. I don't know. It's got a funny name maybe, but it helps you change the way that you are thinking based off of how you feel often so that you just get a different action.
Can you give an example of what that would look like?
Let's say that if it's raining outside, you immediately say to yourself, well, that stinks. I don't like the rain. All of a sudden, now that it's raining, it's going to put you in a really bad mood. So first, I'd have to ask you, are you good being in a bad mood? Is that what you want? Let's be honest. Some people just want to be in a bad mood and nothing's going to change that.
It's true. Yes.
So if the person is like, well, no, I don't want to be in a bad mood. Let's look at the rain for a minute. And how do we start associating? Is there anything that was ever good about the rain? Can you give me something? And if you can start sharing something that was good about the rain, when you see it raining or you think it's going to rain, how can that be your first thought that, oh, man, you know what's cool about the rain? I get to wear these awesome boots that I bought or whatever, or I don't have to do this today because when it rains, I get to go do this instead, as opposed to saying, I have to. It's like, whoa, I get to go do this, right? You help the person identify that, wait a minute, just because I've been thinking this way, I could, if I wanted to, and with practice and taking some time, I could actually start thinking this way about the exact same thing.
Hey, I get it. Now, in your experience, how does NLP address trauma or deeply embedded belief systems tied to addiction?
First, I think NLP isn't going to like erase whatever happened in the past. So the past is the past. Okay. Once we establish that, I would say what it can help do is change the way that the past has been affecting or controlling your present situation or your immediate future. It's about like old beliefs. Some people have a traumatic event or a series or suffer from trauma for some time, whatever, right? And they're like, well, you know, I guess I'm not good enough, or I'm cursed, or you can't trust people. I'll never change. All this mainly negative self-talk. And it's justifiable. Like it's totally understandable, right? Because you're trying to protect yourself, which you have to do that. And at the same time, it's like, well, wait a minute. Where am I trying to be? Well, how do I want to be in the future? Like, or how do I want to be now, but I don't know how to get there? So somehow you have to recognize, or someone can walk you through recognizing that slowly we can start thinking a little bit differently to the point where, oh, you know what? That shitty, horrible thing that happened to me, it was supposed to happen. Or I'm the type of person that it happened to, and I'm able to make the best of it. I'm strong enough to survive that. I'm fortunate enough to have had that horrible experience because now I can use it this way in my life. So I don't know what the empowering thought is that is going to work for another person. I believe that everybody, when they sit with it for a few minutes and get past that initial shitty discomfort feeling that they're so used to having, that it'll come to them and they'll be like, they'll have never thought of it that way.
Right.
That, wow,
right.
like, okay, I guess this could be for that. And then all of a sudden it puts the person into more of a place where we all have internal power. And I feel like a lot of people have just lost it for good reason. Because of one thing, 100 things that have happened to them, you know, they're just beat down. And
Right.
so I think something like NLP it can help that person regain that little glimmer of hope that's always been there, but it's been hidden, stuffed. You got to find it.
Okay. Well said. Thank you. I very often will be talking to people dealing with whatever trauma they have. And one of the main points I try to make to them is that's already happened. You survived that.
Yeah.
Now we're here. How do we put that down and move forward without bringing that with us? And I feel like NLP would be a good tool for that type of thing.
Yeah. And one thing to add to that I think sometimes people get lost is that everyone has had something horrible happen to them.
Absolutely.
Now, it's a different kind of horrible for each person. And some people define this as worse than that. And so you get to rate it however you want. But we've all gone through just bad things at some point in our life. And that doesn't have to be our defining thing. It can just be, it was a thing. And yeah, it happened. And I don't ever want that to happen again. And I really wouldn't want it to happen to other people. But it doesn't mean that the rest of my life is going to be cursed because of it. That was just something that happened. What can I learn from it? What can I take from it? And I want to be that person. So how do I get over there?
Right. Oh, exactly. I agree. I totally agree. Can you walk us through a personal breakthrough that you have experienced because of NLP?
I got to a place where I wanted to stop feeling bad when I woke up in the morning after drinking and partying.
When you say feeling bad, do you mean feeling like hungover bad or feeling guilt and shame bad?
I would say a combination of both. Some days I woke up and physically like, this is horrible. Today's shot. I'm not going to be able to do much at all today. And beating myself up over like, why do you do this? Like, is this how you want to live the rest of your life? It was fun last night, or it was fun yesterday afternoon, but man, it's taken a toll. And look how, and look at the dumb things you did last night.
If you're lucky enough to remember them.
That was part of it too. I started noticing that people would have to piecemeal and share some things. I didn't know that happened last night. And then I was like, man, I think this is worse than I thought it was, because I'm not even aware of all that's going on.
It's a scary thing. I'm a blackout drunk. I wasn't always, but I got to a point at the end where every time I drink, I would black out. And blacking out is worse than passing out. You pass out, you can't hurt anybody. You can't,
Right.
you're down. Blacking out is like being a demon-run zombie. I had no idea what I had done. Also, by the end of mine, I'm not a fun drunk. I'm not a good drunk. I'm a mean, nasty drunk. Like the person I am when I'm under the influence, you wouldn't recognize me, right? You've met the fun me. You've met the nice me, not who I am when the demon's in charge, right?
Yeah.
So I cannot tell you how many mornings I woke up and my man was packing his shit because he was done with me. And last thing I knew, we were having a drink, watching TV, having a good time. Yeah. Somewhere along the line, I had said and done things that were literally running this man off. And I didn't know what I had done, but I was sure sorry I did it. And that's a nightmare. The idea that I could take a drink and go, what if I got in a car and killed somebody? What if who knows what I'm capable of under that? I couldn't tell you, and neither could anybody else. That is one of the scariest things to me. Just frightens me to no end. Anyway, enough about me.
No, I feel that, I can relate certain ways. So I had an interesting experience one night. Was out drinking with a few roommates, having what we thought was a lot of fun. Some of my friends told me that I was more fun to be around when I was drinking, because they're like, well, you loosen up a little more and you joke more. We see more of your personality. So that was hard to hear when you're sober, that like your friends like you better sometimes when you've been drinking. But that one night in particular, I had a little too much to drink, and somebody forgot something. One of my friends, he asked me to maybe drive him, and I don't really remember much of it. And we went out, and I was going to drive, and my neighbor heard me starting up my car, and he's like, man, it's like late on a Friday night. This isn't probably good. He probably shouldn't be out driving. It just random. The guy came out and pulled me out of the car so that I didn't drive that night.
Thank
And
God.
I don't even know what would have happened. But when you hear that story the next morning, you get, anyway, it could have gone, I could have just kept ignoring it, or I could have said, wow, like this is something that I maybe should address.
Right. Because that, God forbid for me, the worst thing would be to kill somebody else.
Yeah.
Like to have that on my soul. I just can't imagine. I'm so glad that my demon is starving, because I'm never going to wake up with a hangover, never going to get a DUI. All I have to do is not drink and not drive. And I can handle anything and everything. Sometimes I'm God's punchline. I'm at peace with that. Sometimes I have a great day. Sometimes I have a weird day, but I always remember every minute of every day. And I can be in control of myself.
Yeah.
Can't control anything else, but I can control me all the time. And that's a great gift. If you've ever been in a mental state where you didn't have that control, you realize what a gift it is that I certainly used to take for granted. Like today, I've had some crazy stuff going today, and I just keep telling myself, well, God's got a sense of humor. Just keep it pushing. What surprised you the most about NLP once you started using it regularly?
The thing that surprised me the most was the irony, in my opinion, of how simple it was and difficult and powerful all together. I looked at it as a little bit of a cheat code. A lot of people I'm around, and speaking from experience, I would think, feel something, do something, and that's just the way it is, and that's why it happened, and you just got to deal with it. And you just never knew. It was like, I have no control. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. And with NLP, I started learning, Jesus, like, that's not true at all. Man, I've got way more control over some things, not everything, but like this crap that I keep complaining about, I have much more of a say in how it works out than I ever wanted to recognize or understand. So to me, it was almost like discovering a toolbox full of like crazy tools that are like, you mean I can fix this now? And I can fix that? I mean, I thought that was going to be broke forever. So to me, NLP gives you those tools to where you can just fix things in your life.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I'm going to be more cognizant and mindful. It's something I'm always telling myself, got to be more mindful. And I think that goes with what you're saying. You have to just it's simple, but it's not easy. Right?
Yeah, correct. 100% of a difference, because it is challenging. I still struggle with stuff, and then I get pissed at myself because I'm like, you know better. So you have to be careful of your self-talk, and sometimes I have to be around it for guys. And I don't know what it's like for women, right? Obviously, but for men, especially as we get older, some men tend to isolate themselves more, and they only have their negative thought process, and you don't realize how destructive that is. For me, I tend to be a little more introverted by nature, or I keep my circle smaller. So I have to remind myself, Mike, you have to share with people so that they understand where you're at, your set point. And I can be reminded from friends like, hey, like, let's talk about that for a minute. You doing okay? Because I'm a human. At the end of the day, nobody's perfect. And even though I might know better, it doesn't mean that I do better.
Well said. Well said. Knowing better does not equate to doing better. Absolutely. Yeah. What's one simple NLP technique our listeners could try today?
This is a common thing that you'll see. Different people do it different ways. But basically the idea of you're where you are right now and you have your emotional set, right? And I'm where I am right now and I have my emotional set, let's call it, by default. The reality is that either of us can change that pretty quickly if we needed to, wanted to. Now, some people, it only happens because they feel like they were triggered. Oh, you just did such and such, and now look at me, I'm a mess because no. What I'm saying is, I get to have a choice. You can do whatever you're doing. You can say whatever you want to say. I can choose. And at the same time, if I don't like the state that I'm in, I can change it. So to me, it's something as simple as if you're feeling overwhelmed and you want to be focused, then we can just take a minute and how do we change that? Like, how do we go from where you are to where you want to be? To me, that's a simple NLP. It's just changing your state. It could be that you're anxious, all right, and you'd rather be calm. It could be that you're angry and you'd rather be clear-headed. And I would say that after practicing it, this can be something that you can fix, change, alter in about like less than a minute. And you can do it right up here. For instance, if I'm all worked up because someone just triggered me, I can be like, well, how are you when you're calm? Like, put yourself in a calm place right now. It's okay. That person, let them do what they're doing. I'm at the beach right now and there's waves. You just have to separate yourself. And once you practice it and do it, you'll be shocked at how almost anything can be going on right around you. And it doesn't have to change how you are right then in the moment. I hope that comes across to where people make sense of it.
It makes sense to me. I utilize different tools to get to that same thing. One of the things I say to myself is, I'm going to stay sober no matter what you do. If I allow myself to be triggered by what somebody says that you don't care for, they're yelling at you, they're whatever, I don't have to pick that up.
Right.
I don't have to respond to that. I don't have to give that person power over my emotions. Like, just because you yell at me or you call me a name or you cut me off in traffic, so what? You don't get to dictate how I act. You don't get to dictate how I feel. So I get it. My thought process might be a little different, but I totally get what it is that you're going for there.
In my opinion, the reason why a lot of people get an addiction that takes away their feeling sense and alters their mood is they're so afraid of the discomfort that comes from a negative thought. I'm guilty of this. I was putting the power of a negative thought and making it to be this thing that there was no way I could handle it. And I had to do anything, right? Like, no, you just can't deal with that. You're going to go out and party tonight and forget about that. And what I recognized was when I finally just dealt with the discomfort, it was so hard and challenging the first couple times. However, it turned out to be, wow, that's not this thing that I've been making it out to be for so many years. I really had to turn a 180 because for many years, I really thought that there was something weak or wrong with people that needed help or to admit that you had a problem. Like, I'm out, I could be drinking, not remember the whole night, but I don't have a problem. Somebody else has the problem, not me.
Right. I don't have a drinking problem. You have a problem with my drinking.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience with any other addiction recovery modalities? Have you ever done 12 steps? Have you ever done cognitive behavioral therapy? Have you ever had to go to rehab? Anything like that?
I looked into some of the 12 steps, but did not go through them. I've done the cognitive behavior therapy. When I went through a divorce, I got a lot of counseling as a result of that. So yes, like EMDR, I've done some of that therapy as well. I wanted to understand why the thing happened when it happened, and I wanted to understand the role that I had in it. And I wasn't going to walk out of the situation blaming the thing or the person.
Okay.
For whatever reason, I was like, I want to understand what it is about me that put me into or allowed me to get into the situation, because I was an active participant in all of my life. Does that answer the question?
It does for me, because as you're saying it, what's going through my head is how you're basically just described the fourth step of the 12-step program. Part of what I'm trying to do with this platform is reach out to people who, for whatever reason, don't want to do the 12-step program. My theory that I'm trying to put forth is that regardless of whether or not you work a 12-step program, in order to get and stay sober, there has to be something like you change. You don't want to hear about God and spiritual experience and higher power. That's great. But there still has to be some sort of psychic change in the way that we think the way that we think and feel the way that we feel, so that we can act differently than the way that we act. I've always said that drugs and alcohol are not the problem. They're how we deal with our actual problems. So we need different solutions. Just like everything else, NLP has its critics. What do you say to people who are skeptical or think this is some kind of pseudoscience?
People get to believe whatever they want to believe. I would ask somebody this: would you rather believe that you can't overcome the thing that has held you back more than you'd rather believe that maybe if I try something that's different or weird? It's a big world out there, and there's a lot of different ways to look at things. And ask yourself, what is it that you really want for your future self? And put that first, and then say to yourself, well, you know what? Maybe this other thing isn't so crazy. And how about this? Why don't I find out for myself and I can rule it off the list, as opposed to just taking someone else's advice, or just because my mother always told me that that would never work, or my uncle would call people idiots that did that. Like, maybe they were wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong for believing it. But until I go and experience it myself, then I can form my own opinion about it. And at the end of the day, if what I'm really trying to do is to get to a better place, well, then I should at least exhaust a lot of the possibilities. For me, just because somebody has a weirdness about them and they may claim that this is what helped them be who they are, we can give a negative connotation to that person or that thing that they talk about, right? So for instance, if somebody that you can't stand, you later find out, oh, they took NLP and that's why they're a horrible person. Well, maybe they're always a horrible person, and maybe NLP has nothing to do with it, right? I guess what I'm saying is there could be other factors. And sometimes it's like, well, if that thing could possibly solve something for me, maybe I should look into it. What's interesting is my own personal experience. When I first started going to counseling, I got the impression that a counselor actually doesn't help you solve the problem for the future, and in as much as the counselor is just someone there that help you understand it and to diagnose you with a condition. I didn't want to be diagnosed with a condition. I wanted a solution. And that's what kind of led me in slightly a different direction. And for me, I would share it was a similar experience like to a lot of people when they have a health issue, they want to put this thing on that, like, I'm afflicted by such and such. And now it's a badge that they have to wear the rest of their life. Whereas, no, like, I want to be a person that's free of this thing. So I don't want to be taking like prescriptions the rest of my life. I might need to take a prescription for a little period of time, but the goal is to just break free of that thing.
Right.
So
right.
That's what helped in my mind. I think that's what led me a little bit more towards like the NLP way, because it was a sense of where I could walk out of a situation and say, I don't have to carry that thing anymore. I don't have to worry about it for the rest of my life.
Right. You're not a victim of it.
100%. I suffered from it. Don't get me wrong. And I've had like shitty experiences, but I can put that behind me now.
I agree. That's what I would say. I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. Whatever it is, I survived it. You could tell because here I am. It didn't take me out.
Right. You get to live to fight another day.
That's right. Well said. So now, what are some common misconceptions about NLP that you wish more people understood?
I thought initially that NLP was sort of like manipulating a situation. I think some people use the term like woo-woo. People think it's like hocus pocus. So I think those are misconceptions. I think really NLP just helps. For whatever reason, it helped me learn how to manage myself first. Understand how I feel like the average person today, like here we are, we're in an advanced society. It's 2025. I'm able to talk to you on a computer. I'm in Maryland. You're in Florida. Yet we don't even understand how our heart and our head are connected. And we don't even understand why we think what we think sometimes and then why we act. Does that make sense? Like,
absolutely.
As much as I understand technology, most people, in myself included for the longest time, I didn't understand how I worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, I would say that's a misconception. Like you can just learn how you're naturally, as a human being, how we're naturally wired. And you can take it or leave it. And some of us are wired a little differently. Some of us are more in touch with our emotions. Some of us are more in touch with our intellect. Let's not fight that. It's just understand it. And the goal is, how do I best understand how they're all connected and how they work? And then how do I understand how it's affecting me in my life? Like, oh, I'm a person that needs to learn how to manage that part of their self. That's all.
I tend to be more rational. Yeah. Which doesn't mean that I can't be a psycho crazy woman and completely lead with nothing but emotion. But in the general, if you were going to generalize me, you would say that I am more rational than emotional, which is interesting because I'm, the woman. Yeah. Whereas my husband, he gets very passionate and he gets very emotional. Like when he's angry, he's really angry. And when he's happy, he's really happy. And, and my emotions tend to stay more even keeled. I don't really have super high highs and super low lows. I'm kind of a take it as it comes. I don't try to control the ocean. I learned how to surf. The two of us together, we probably make like the perfect one person.
You guys get to learn from each other because he gets to see your side, how it is on the spectrum, and you get to see how it is for him. And it's not that like your way is better or his way is better. At times, handling it one way or the other, sure, is more advantageous, potentially. Right. I had to learn how to get a little more in touch with some feelings on certain topics because in the moment, I would brush it off and I would tell you, that's not a big deal. I'm not worried about that. And later on, it would come out in some other way that it was a big deal and it was bothering me, but I didn't know how to process that emotion. I didn't understand what was happening, and it would come out. I might be all of a sudden really sarcastic and mean, make some mean comment about something. I'd be like, where'd that come from? And it's like, oh, I actually have a feeling about that I didn't understand.
Do you get that? I do. I can remember a lot of my stories start with when I was in prison, but I took this one particular program and it was faith-based. It was to teach you how to incorporate whatever your faith was into your daily life. And at the time, I was a practicing Buddhist. And I was the only Buddhist in the class. We had, Catholics, Jews, Muslims, everything. And I remember I would do the assignments, right? And my spiritual advisor, my teacher, I'd give the answer and he'd say, okay, well, that's correct. Okay. And he'd say, but how do you feel about it? And I'd say, I feel like it's the correct answer. What are you asking me? I answered the question you asked me. I couldn't get into that. I feel like I'm going to get an A. That's how I feel.
I'm acing this. Exactly.
What you want from me.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I've gotten older and stopped numbing myself with drugs and alcohol, I am definitely more in touch. I cry a lot more. I didn't ever used to cry. But that's my own childhood trauma, shadow work stuff I got to work on. Are you familiar with shadow work?
Mm-hmm. But I haven't done probably as much as someone should. But yeah, the shadow self.
Yes, from early childhood traumas where that shadow like protects your psyche.
Yes.
And the things that I learned became ingrained in me as that self-protection have of course carried into adulthood. Like I don't want to say I have it. I have had, and I can easily put it back on.
Yeah.
This kind of hardened shell that protects me. Because I have been in situations in my life where I needed that, you know,
100%.
And my poor husband, I've never been in such a place where I have been so loved and protected and I'm safe. It's safe for me to let that go. I don't have to have that. But he's had to deal with that for like just, you know, just I'm trying to take a chisel and I'm just trying to break through that thing. You
Exactly.
Bless his heart, he never gives up. I can't speak for anybody but myself. And I think that it might be more common to women. We have to feel safe or else I can be scary. I stay laced up. Come at me, see what happens. You know, but I don't have to be like that. And that's something that you learn over time with, I think, these kind of things. Because I tell you, life's a lot nicer and happier when I feel safe and loved and protected and I'm able to be silly and let my emotions be whatever they are. It's much better than wearing that armor, you know, and
keeping your guard up all the time.
Oh, it's exhausting. And it took me a really long time to get to a place where I felt that was an okay thing, where I could trust and feel safe, because I've had that particular lifeline where that just wasn't possible for me. You know, I wasn't safe. I'm not stupid. I knew I wasn't safe. So you deal with things, but life ain't over yet. So anyway, again, enough about me. For someone brand new to NLP, where should they start?
I can't speak highly enough about the place that I learned the most about it. Literally, it's this easy. They could go to NLP.com. The gentleman there, Dr. Matt James, he's amazing, in my opinion. Research NLP online, and there's many places that you could go. I found it best. I went and signed up for a training and did the 4 days. Sometimes in life, you just act in the moment. When I was there, they were talking about doing some other training, and I was like, I want to do that as well. That model worked for me, and the way that they deliver the message worked well for me. So that would be my suggestion of where to start, and you have to see if it works for you.
Now, I know you went to a live session. To your knowledge, do they have literature, videos, website where they do this online?
At the moment, I don't know if they do online. Maybe they do. I know for certain they do them live. And from personal experience, I would say to anyone, do what you can to be in person, because the training, it's much more impactful when you're there in person. There's a connection. If you're willing to let yourself be uncomfortable and be in a new surrounding and learn and just be open to new information, to me personally, it's 1,000 times more impactful to go in person. I get it. If for some reason you absolutely, it's never going to work, then yeah, doing the online is probably better than nothing. If this is something that interests someone, that I think if you give it 4 days, you'll be shocked at what you get back.
I'm definitely going to put a link in the description for NLP.com, even though people can clearly just type in NLP.com.
Yeah.
Now, what's one belief you used to hold that NLP helped you completely reframe?
I think for me, the biggest belief was that for a long time, I recognized that there were things about me that were different from people around me. And I would be like, well, that's just who I am and I can't change. So for years, I really believed that there was nothing I could do about it. You know, that my reactions are automatic, my habits, that's just the way I am. You know, like this is my DNA. I can't help it. And with the understandings through NLP, I've realized that, man, Mike, you were just telling yourself a story for the longest time that no, your thoughts and emotions and whatever happened before, that's not your destiny. Those were just patterns that I had practiced. And a lot of it was subconscious, right? Because it's about programming. But basically, I was exposed to a lot of things young, and it has an impact that I'm often not even aware that it happened. And that's why I now think and do the things that I do, right? But I have learned that any pattern can be broken. And any new pattern can be built if I'm willing to do the work. And for me, just that simple shift, the recognizing that the option is there, it really changed the way that I respond, especially to things that I would say cause pressure or discomfort, or would maybe have me afraid or worried or unsure. And it's allowed me to, I guess, catch my breath a lot of times before I would sabotage something. I get presented with opportunities all the time. And for a large period of life, I was sabotaging the results. I had to realize that it wasn't luck that was working for or against me. It was skill. It was either I have the skill to get where I want to go, or I'm lacking the skill. And it was recognizing that I just have to get the skill. I can get to a different place than I am if I get the skill. So that would be my breakthrough.
Well said. That's wonderful. Now, is there anything else that you would like to say to the audience? Anything that you would like to share?
I'm just very thankful that you offered this. So thank you for letting me be a guest. And I offer help to remodelers as a daytime thing. And if there's anyone out there that feels like they're struggling and they know that they want something different, but they don't know how they can do it, at the end of the day, you don't have to be worried about how. It's just a matter of understanding who. And where I'm going with that is, if you don't like something, just who is it that could help you get there? And maybe it's somebody like myself. Maybe it's someone like yourself. There's someone in the world today that can connect with you and help you overcome whatever struggle you have. So don't bog down on, I don't know how I'm going to do it. You're not supposed to know how. Let somebody help you get there. That would be my thing.
That's a great message. Mike, how can people contact you if they want to get a hold of you for business or to pick your brain?
Yeah. Thanks for the best thing to do is just go to theremodelingacademy.com. I offer individual coaching if that's something that somebody wants. If they just want to watch YouTube videos or podcasts that I've put out, they can find those. All my information will be right there.
Wonderful. Well, Mike, I guess that's a wrap for today's episode of Starve the Demon. If something in this conversation sparked your interest or made you rethink how you talk to yourself, drop a comment below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and share this with someone who's ready to reclaim their power. You can find links to connect with Mike and learn more about NLP in the description below. And always remember, love everybody and let God sort them out. I'm Jenna, and I'll see you in the next one.